Hi, so for this one you need to stand up. So push your chair to the side, really stand up. You can't do this one in your imagination. Stand up and just notice, how do you feel? And if you have been sitting for a long time, maybe you feel some tension in your lower back, or it feels like your upper body and lower body maybe aren't connected. So just notice, how do you feel? Are you standing evenly on both legs? And just bend and straighten your legs. So very simple movement, there's not really much to it. The question is, can we enjoy it more? So what is happening when you're bending and stretching your legs? Well, many things, but we're going to focus on the pelvis, and I'm not going to show you the bones in this little lesson. We're just going to focus on a concept. So for this, I'm going to use this beautiful, colourful toy, and this is an expander toy. So it gets bigger and smaller. So what has this got to do with your pelvis? And what does it have to do with bending and stretching your legs? So try this. Put your hands on your pelvis and imagine when you're bending your legs that your pelvis is going to widen a little. And then as you lengthen your legs, it's going to narrow a little. So how does that feel? Let's do it again. And the pelvis widens and narrows. Pelvis widens and narrows. Pelvis widens and narrows. Widen and narrow. And say it with me. Widen and narrow. Widen. Can you feel that? Can you imagine that? And one more time, widen and narrow. So now what would happen if we just kept a narrow pelvis? So some of you may have been told, particularly if you're a dancer or through certain movements, that you need to keep everything nice and tight. You need to pull in your belly and keep it all narrow. And then you're going to bend your legs. So let's try that. So keep a nice narrow pelvis, pull in your belly, and let's go, bend your legs, narrow pelvis, and notice what happens. So were you able to bend your legs? If you were, how did it feel? Did it feel like that you wanted to bend, or did you notice some resistance? So let's try it again. So let's do the widen and narrow. Widen, so let it widen, and now think narrow and bend your legs. Doesn't work. So why is that? Well, if you think of a bouncing ball, when it hits the floor with all of that impact, it spreads a little because you've got that impact coming down, and then it's going to get spread three-dimensionally, and then that impact reverses and gets sent back up again. So the same thing is happening in our pelvis, and I will explain in later lessons a little bit more how this happens. But the impact is coming down, and then it needs to be spread into the muscles, tendons, ligaments. So the pelvis actually needs to widen in order to take that impact and then turn it back into movement. So let's do it one more time, and you're going to use your hands like this. Pelvis widen, pelvis narrow, pelvis widen, pelvis narrow. Now imagine it's like a bouncing ball, and widen, narrow, widen, narrow, widen, narrow, widen, narrow. And now if you want to do some little like jumps, you can do and wide, narrow, wide, narrow, wide, narrow. And notice how that feels. You may feel already very energized, and that elastic rebound starting to come back into your pelvis. So there is lots more that we can look at, really, how this happens. But for now, starting to imagine wide and narrow as you bend and straighten will keep you bouncing down the street.